No one a decade ago saw this coming or even thought this was a possibility, but it's here and it's happening. Hey! Hi, how you doing? This is the Gamertron and welcome back to the Gamertron Show. You know, working in the video game industry must be super weird, especially negotiating things with your publisher. Because you know the game devs want to take the game in one direction, but the publishers want to take it in another, so they have to find this compromise. I would simply love to be in one of these meetings between developers and the publisher and just see how this process all works, how things get decided. I would also love to know the history of how this all got started. You guys have read the title of the video and you know what it's about, and you probably own a video game that is already like this. Video games have become an investment and a service. Years ago, all you had to do to play a game, and all a game was going to the store, buying the disc, putting the disc in your platform of choice, installing, and then playing the game. That was it. Now, we have pre-ordering, beta and alpha testing, early access, content updates, expansions, DLC, season passes, micro transactions. Buying or getting involved in a new video game has become an investment and a service. Consumers are now, in more ways than one, getting directly involved with the product. You're buying it early before it's even released. You're playing it early before it's even released. You're playing the game as it is slowly developed over time. You're paying even more money for more content after the game is released and finished. And sometimes you're receiving more content even after the game is finished. After you already bought it, you're still receiving new stuff for free, or stuff, of course, you have to buy. Games are now more and more having in-game stores. These video games have little stores in them where you can buy stuff with real-world money, not like in-game, in-gameplay, in-world stores where you buy equipment and loot and gear and stuff like that. No. There's actual stores in the main menu where you purchase stuff with real-world money. Now, this stuff isn't entirely new. It's been going on in MMOs for a long time, but it's new to AAA video games, and AAA video games have become an investment and a service. It's not as simple as going to the store, buying the disc, putting it in the platform, installing it, playing it. It's not that simple anymore. It is now a way more complicated process. On top of all that other stuff I just mentioned, some games require you to create an account, share your email, create a new password, provide personal information for multiplayer and single-player games. Now then, I'm not saying this is a good thing, but I'm not saying this is a bad thing either. I'm just saying it's different. Very, 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 very different than how video games worked just a few years ago, and I want to talk to you guys about this. I want to have a discussion with you guys about this. Do you think video games becoming an investment and a service is a good or bad thing? What do you think? What is your opinion? Because there is no factual, objective way to look at this, like, this is bad or this is good. This has its benefactors, but it has its detractors too. And all you can really have is a personal preference on this situation. There is no right or wrong answer whether this is good or bad. So let's go over what I consider to be some of the positives and negatives. Let's start with the positives. First off, a game you like is constantly getting bigger. With games being an investment and service, there has to be a benefactor to the consumer, and the benefactor is more content to play. Whether it be an early access game or a fully developed AAA game, you are promised more content and future updates, whether it be paid for or free. So if you really like that game, you are given more reasons to just keep playing it and come back to it. Another positive, patches. Oh my god. I don't care what anybody says, it is a great time for gaming when you are not stuck with a game that has an issue or multiple issues at launch. Doesn't matter how hard the devs work on the game, they're gonna miss something. Some little bug or glitch slips through the cracks and damages your experience with that game in some way. But now with the constant patching and updating, it's almost guaranteed that if you have a problem with a game, it will eventually be addressed. Can't really say that about video games being released a decade ago. You got what you got and that was that, bugs and all. Yes, it still sucks that games come out with bugs and glitches, but hey, at least they're being addressed more often and more quickly. Next and final positive, we get to tell the developers and the publishers of video games what we want in our games with our wallet, with our money. New piece of content or DLC is released for a game, we get to decide whether it's worth our money or not, and we tell the devs and the publishers what we want from them. They release a DLC pack full of weapon skins. Nobody buys it, that sends them a message. They release a DLC pack with a ton of content that's worthwhile. But then again, what content is worthwhile is subject to opinion and personal preference. I'm just giving an example. Everyone buys that, and that shows the developers and the publishers, hey, people all bought this, let's make more of it. So they get the money they want, and we get more of the game content we want. Couldn't do that a decade ago. I have to admit, despite the price tags, that's really cool. That we, the consumers, the customers, now have a say in what we want added to our games. However, as we all are well aware, it's not all sunshines and rainbows with video games being an investment and a service. Negative number 1. Let's all admit it, video games are no longer $60 anymore. That's just the entry price. I'm not even including tax on this. With video games, or at least AAA video games, keep in mind here I'm talking mostly about AAA video games, but early access, maybe some indie, maybe some budget games can fit into this category as well. Point is, with games nowadays, you have to do one of two things. You have to spend a lot of money, close to $100, if we include the base game, additional DLC, and maybe the season pass. Or you do what I do and look for incredibly cheap deals online, and why not everybody does this is kinda silly to me. I mean, seriously guys, I get the newest and latest AAA video games for like $30 to $40. Sometimes I get them completely free. Without pirating, mind you. But yeah, it's no longer just pay $50-$60, you get the game. Maybe buy an expansion later on. Nah. You get in the base game, then you're getting a ton of stuff afterwards, sometimes for free, which, like I said in the positives, is awesome. But for the most part, it's gonna cost extra money. But hey, this is why you wait for sales and you look for cheap deals online. While this point, this number 1 negative, isn't entirely a negative, again, this still remains subjective. Because no one is forcing you to buy games at whatever price they are. You are the master of your own wallet. Where you spend your money, how much money you spend, is all up to you. You see, the only thing I'm saying is, it's not as simple as a one-time purchase. You make the transaction, and then that's done. You have to make several more transactions afterwards. But then again, to avoid this whole process, there's always like special and ultimate editions of games. So yeah, this whole negative isn't entirely a negative, it's more of an annoyance than anything else. Anyways, moving on. Negative number 2. Cut content DLC. Now, I think everybody can get behind this. Look, I still stand by what I said earlier. I'm not complaining about video games anymore. I understand the hard work it takes to make a game, to make the actual content in a game. But keep in mind, this is not a developer decision I am complaining about. This is a publisher decision I am complaining about, because I can guarantee you, developers don't want to do this stuff. They want to make sure their product is as valuable as possible while making a return on investment. However, there are executives in the publishing departments of video gaming that just don't get gaming. How they landed in their positions, I will never know. And they are the most likely culprits that pull this shit. Hey, you see that weapon and that story quest mission? Or whatever? Hey, that stuff you're working on right there, can we take that out of the game and sell that as like a pre-order bonus? Oh, so you want us to stop working on this and work on this later for DLC? Okay, we'll just make something else in its place. No. Finish that, but just lock it off. And we'll sell it as pre-order only content, and then we'll sell it for even more money later on. Well, you're the publisher, so you're the boss. That's mostly how these situations go. Cut content, pre-order, DLC incentives are mostly, almost always, bullshit. Cutting out weapons, characters, story quests / missions, I'm sorry, it's not cool, and in my book is not acceptable. However, skins, cosmetics, shit that doesn't actually affect the gameplay, I'm cool with that. But cutting out actual gameplay content? Nah, not cool. And that's one of the downsides to video games being an investment and a service. They want to give you an incentive to buy their product and pre-purchase their product, which I can understand that completely. But sometimes that incentive is a detriment to the base final product. Some examples of poor, very poor pre-purchase offers include, but are not limited to, Deus Ex, Mankind Divided, augment your pre-order. Total War, Warhammer, the entire Chaos Warriors faction, the many Watch Dogs pre-order offers. I mean, seriously, Watch Dogs had so many different pre-order offers, it was insane. You pre-order this edition, you get some exclusive cut content weapons. You pre-order this edition, exclusive pre-order cut content costumes. You pre-order this edition, exclusive cut content missions. And those are just a few examples of very poor pre-purchase cut content offers. I get it, you want to give players an incentive to buy your product, but don't hinder the final product in the process. DLC should be downloadable content, not stuff that's already in the game. Final negative with video games being a investment and a service. Well, I think that's kind of obvious based on what I've said already. You're never really getting a final finished product day one. It's only a building block to what the final product will be months later. Hell, even sometimes years later. Because these games are planned as an investment and a service. While I have absolutely no doubt that a ton of hard work is already put into making the base launch day game, no doubt in my mind that the developers work their asses off to make these games. It's never really the end game, though. And that was a nice thing about games a decade ago. You paid your money, and that was it. You got the game. The final product. Now, this can sort of be looked at as both a positive and a negative. On one hand, you're spending money on something that isn't a final product the day it's released. On one hand, you're being part of a unique experience. You are a part of this game, you are part of its community as it grows and evolves and expands and gets bigger. That's one of the things I love about the video games Payday 2, Warframe, Titanfall, Evolve, the now released Rainbow Six Siege, and many others that I just can't think off the top of my head. And this especially goes for early access games. It really is a unique experience being part of a game that's slowly growing. But there is the mindset, and the perfectly reasonable mindset of, I paid my money, I want the final product. And there's nothing wrong with that mindset, I can understand that mindset. But that's the thing with video games being an investment and a service. It's a new time, it's a different business. Full of its ups and downs, different preferences and opinions. There is no right or wrong answer. All we can do is spend our money in the right places at the right time, share our concerns with the developers and publishers of these games, and hope we steer this industry and community in the right direction. But what are your thoughts, feelings, and opinions on this subject matter? I'd love to hear and read your thoughts, feelings, and opinions on this video, on the subject, in the comment section below. I love reading comments, so get nearly enough comments, please leave a comment. And if you like the video in any way, shape, or form, please hit the like button. Hitting the like button helps you, helps me, helps everybody involved with the video if you hit the like button. And finally, I am the Gamertron. I love video games, I love talking about video games, and if that's something that interests you, maybe consider supporting my channel by subscribing to me. Anyways guys, this has been a video, and I will see you guys later.